Endurance, heart, brain, mood, those are the true gifts of cardio, and they are worth having. Weight control, notably, is not the headline. Keep that straight and everything gets clearer. A walk with a friend does more for you, body and soul, than a joyless hour on a machine ever will. If you're going to do dedicated cardio, and I think you should, the most valuable kind for most people is what's called Zone 2. Welcome to the Vitality Choice. I'm your host, Christine Costello, wellness educator, founder of a science-backed supplement brand, and someone who has spent decades studying and applying the science of what allows the body to stay strong, energized, and resilient through midlife and beyond. This podcast is about rewriting the narrative on aging. Each week we explore the everyday choices that shape how we age, from strength and metabolism to nutrition, mindset, recovery, and connection, so you can live stronger, healthier, and more vital at any age. Because aging isn't the problem, decline is. And when you understand how your body actually works, you can make the choices that allow you to age powerfully. So let's dive in. I'm going to say something in this episode that a lot of the fitness world will not like. If you made me choose, if you told me I could only do one form of exercise for the rest of my life, cardio or strength training, I would choose strength training without a second of hesitation every single time. And I know that might sound strange coming from someone who just told you last week to go train and who is about to spend a whole episode talking about cardio. So let me be clear about what this episode is and isn't. This is not me telling you cardio doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Your heart, your lungs, your brain, your endurance, your mood, all of it benefits from cardiovascular exercise. I'm not here to talk you out of it. What I'm here to do is put cardio in its proper place. Because somewhere along the way, our culture decided that cardio was the main event of fitness, that being healthy meant logging miles, that losing weight meant hours on a treadmill, that the person gasping and dripping was the person doing it right. And that idea has cost a lot of people, especially women, a lot of wasted years. So today, I want to give you a clear hierarchy: what matters most, what matters next, and where cardio genuinely shines. By the end, you'll know exactly how much cardio you actually need, what kind, and why the answer is probably less than you've been told and different from what you're doing. And I'll tell you right now, this is not my favorite subject to train personally. I'll get into that, but what I found over the years might surprise you as much as it surprised me. Let's get into it. Let me give you the order of operations, the hierarchy of what actually moves the needle for aging well. Then we'll spend the rest of the episode inside of that. At the top is strength training. Everything we talked about last week, the 6 movement patterns, building strength and power. This is the foundation, and it is not close. If you do nothing else, do this. Right behind it, and often part of it, is power training. Here's something people miss. Power training, when it's done in circuits with short rest, absolutely doubles as cardio. Your heart rate climbs, your lungs work, your conditioning improves, you're getting a cardiovascular workout while you build the explosive strength that protects you from falls. It's 2 birds with 1 stone. Then, your dedicated cardio, with Zone 2 leading the way. This is where most of the real cardiovascular benefit lives, and we're going to spend some real time on it because it's the piece people understand the least and definitely mangle the most. And finally, a small dose of high-intensity work. Useful, real, but keep it small. And it's wildly overhyped, which we'll also get into. Here's the part that reframes the whole conversation, and it's definitely worth pausing on. Strength training, when it's done properly, is already training your cardiovascular system. When you move through compound lifts with intention and appropriate rest, keeping your heart rate elevated, your cardiovascular system is working. It is adapting. People think of the weight room and the treadmill as actually 2 completely separate worlds, but a well-run strength session is doing far more for your heart than most people realize. Which is exactly why, if I had to choose, strength definitely wins. It gives me the muscle, the strength, the power, the bone density, the metabolic health, and a real dose of cardiovascular benefit, all in one. Cardio alone only gives me a fraction of that list. Strength is the whole meal, cardio is a very good side dish, and nobody builds a healthy body by eating only side dishes. I want to speak directly to the women listening for a moment, though the men really actually should listen as well, because this pattern isn't only ours. So many of us were handed a single tool for our bodies: cardio. Do more cardio, burn more calories, shrink yourself on the treadmill, on the elliptical, in the spin class. If the scale wasn't moving, the answer was always the same: more cardio. I want to gently set that whole framework down because it has failed an enormous number of people, and it may be failing you right now. Here's the truth: cardio is not the answer to body composition, it never really was. If your goal is to change how your body looks and functions, the two things that matter most are nutrition and strength training. That's a full stop. Muscle is what shapes your body. Muscle is what raises your metabolism. Muscle is what makes you look strong and lean and capable. Nutrition is what fuels and reveals it. Cardio, for weight control, is chasing a small effect while ignoring the big ones. And then there's a cruel irony hiding in the treadmill approach. Excessive cardio, especially when you're under eating, can actually eat into your muscle. So the very thing people do to fix their bodies can make the underlying problem worse over time, stripping away the muscle that would have helped them most. So here's my invitation. If you've been grinding out hours of cardio you don't even enjoy, trying to shrink yourself, you have my full permission to stop. Put that time into learning to lift, put it into your protein, and keep cardio for what it's actually wonderful at, which I'm going to tell you. But first, I'm going to reframe it just a little bit. Cardio is not punishment for what you ate. It is not a calorie eraser. When you stop asking cardio to control your weight and start asking it to build your heart, your endurance, and your mood, your whole relationship with it changes, and you might even start to enjoy it. A walk with a friend does more for you, body and soul, than a joyless hour on a machine ever will. So far, I've been speaking to the person who dreads cardio, but there's another group entirely, and they deserve their own part of this conversation. The runners, the cyclists, the people who lace up or clip in and feel most like themselves out on the road or on the trail. And if that's you, nothing in this episode is an argument to stop. The opposite, actually. When someone has found a form of movement they genuinely love, they've solved the hardest problem in all of fitness, which is just showing up. That kind of joy is rare and definitely worth protecting. It's worth more than any optimization I could ever offer. So this section isn't a warning, it's just information for managing a lot of endurance work well, from someone who wants these athletes thriving in their 80s. The thing worth knowing is this: endurance sport pairs high energy expenditure and a tendency to underfuel, and most serious endurance athletes already know how easy it is to end up eating less than the training demands. Over years, that combination can chip away at muscle. It's possible to be superbly fit cardiovascularly while the strength foundation underneath slowly thins out. And because it happens gradually, it tends to go unnoticed until it starts to matter, often decades down the road. Two things that manage that risk well, and no one asks anyone to give up the sport they love. One, fuel it especially with protein. High volume endurance work needs real fuel, not just for performance, but for holding on to muscle. Adequate calories and generous protein are what let the body build and repair rather than break down. For endurance athletes especially, underfueling is the more common mistake than overeating. And two, just add strength training a couple times a week. 2 strength sessions a week is enough to preserve and build that muscle that endurance sport alone won't maintain. It's the piece that keeps the athlete of today strong for those decades to come. And there's a genuine performance bonus here as well, which is what makes this an easy addition rather than a competing chore. Strength work makes endurance athletes better at their sport. Stronger runners produce more force and tend to be more resistant to injury. Cyclists with real leg and core strength climb better and hold their form longer. The strength doesn't steal from the miles, it actually protects them and it extends how many good years of them there are. Love the cardio? Fuel it well. Add a little lifting. That's the whole formula for keeping an endurance athlete strong for life. So if cardio isn't the body composition tool we were sold, What is it genuinely wonderfully good for? Because it is good for real things. Endurance. This is the big one. Cardio builds your capacity to sustain effort, to keep going, to hike that long trail, play with the grandkids until they tire out first, climb the stairs at the end of a long day without your heart pounding. That stamina is a genuine quality of life gift, and cardio is how you build it. Then there's heart and lung health. Your cardiovascular system, like your muscles, adapts to what you ask of it. Ask it to work, and it becomes more efficient, more resilient. This matters enormously for long term health. And then there's your brain. Cardiovascular exercise increases blood flow to the brain and supports cognitive health as we age. This is not a small footnote. Protecting your brain is one of the most important things you can do in midlife, and cardio is part of that. And then there's your mood. The endorphins, those are real. The post movement lift, the clearer head, the lighter mood. Cardio delivers this reliably. Sometimes the best reason to move your body is simply that you feel better afterward. Notice what's on this list and then what isn't. Endurance, heart, brain, mood, those are the true gifts of cardio, and they are worth having. Weight control, notably, is not the headline. Keep that straight and everything gets clearer. Okay, if you're going to do dedicated cardio, and I think you should, the most valuable kind for most people is what's called zone 2. You may have heard the term thrown around. It's having a real moment, and in my view, it deserves the attention because it might be the most beneficial cardiovascular work you can do. But here's the problem. Almost everybody really does it wrong, and they do it wrong in the same direction. They go too hard. So let me explain exactly what that is. Zone 2 is low intensity, steady cardio, easy, sustainable effort. It is the pace that builds your aerobic base, improves how your body uses fat for fuel, and strengthens the deep machinery of your endurance, right down to the health of your cells. And the magic of it is precisely that it's easy. The benefit comes from the low intensity, not despite it. The trouble is that easy feels wrong to people. We've been trained to believe exercise only counts if it hurts. So people get on the treadmill to do their zone 2, feel like they're barely working, decide they can't possibly be enough, and crank it up. And the moment they do, they've left zone 2 entirely and lost most of that specific benefit. So, how do you actually find it and stay in it? The simplest tool is your own voice. In zone 2, you should be able to hold a conversation, but not comfortably sing. If you can chat in full sentences without gasping, you're there. If you can belt out a song, you're going way too easy. If you can only get a few set words out between breaths, you've gone too hard. Come back down. If you like numbers, it's roughly 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate for your age. But the talk test works beautifully with no gadget at all. That's it. A brisk walk where you can still talk, an easy cycle, a gentle hike on flatter ground. For most people, a brisk walk is genuine zone 2, which means one of the most beneficial forms of cardiovascular exercise on earth is also one of the most accessible, most pleasant, and easiest on your joints. And this is where walking with a friend becomes not just enjoyable, but genuinely optimal. You're in zone 2 almost by definition, because if you can chat with your friend, you're at the right intensity. Connection and cardiovascular health in the same hour, that is a beautiful thing. Now let's talk about the high intensity end of things, because this is where the hype gets loud and the confusion gets really thick. You've heard of HIIT, HIIT, high intensity interval training, short bursts of very hard effort with recovery in between. And you probably heard about VO2 max, which is a measure of the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. For a while, VO2 max has been held up as one of the great predictors of longevity, and training it became a whole movement. So let's connect the two things that often get discussed as if they're separate. The training you do to improve VO2 max is essentially a form of high intensity interval training. Those hard, near maximal intervals people do to push their VO2 max, that's actually HIIT. So when we talk about HIIT and VO2 max training, we're largely talking about the same category of very hard, short duration effort. Now, is high intensity work useful? Yes, in small doses. It does things zone 2 can't. Pushing the ceiling of your cardiovascular capacity? A little goes a long way, but I want to add a note of caution and a note of humility. The caution. High intensity work is a significant stressor on the body. It spikes your cortisol, and for a lot of midlife people who are already carrying high stress, poor sleep, and a full nervous system, piling on frequent hit sessions can backfire. More is definitely not better. More can actively work against you and against your recovery, against your muscle, against your sleep. A small dose, maybe once a week or even every couple of weeks, is plenty for most people. And the humility. The science here is still moving. Some recent research has started to question just how much of the longevity benefit we've attributed to VO2 max really holds up under scrutiny. I'm not going to tell you it's settled in either direction because it really isn't. What I'll tell you is this: chasing a hit number at the expense of your recovery, your strength work, and your sanity is almost certainly the wrong trade for most people over 40. So do a little of it, but don't build your life around it and never let it crowd out the strength work that matters the most. So I'm going to pull back the curtain on my own routine because pretending I'm a cardio enthusiast would do no good because I'm not. I need to be straight with you. I've never loved cardio. It's not the part of training I look forward to. My true love is the weight room. When the weather cooperates, and here in Arizona, that means not the 115 degrees that it is today, I hike once a week for a few hours. I genuinely enjoy that. It's cardio that doesn't feel like cardio. It gets me outside and it does wonders for the single leg steadiness I mentioned I'm working on. The uneven ground trains my balance in a way no machine actually can. Beyond that, my cardio is fairly random. I keep it to about 20 to 30 minutes once or twice a week, and I'll throw in a short hit session, maybe 10 minutes every couple of weeks. That's it. That's my whole cardio program. And when it's too hot to hike and I'm stuck training power indoors instead of being out on a trail, I have to admit that's not my favorite version of my week. Now, here's the part that genuinely surprises me, and it's the reason I can stand behind this whole strength first philosophy with confidence, at least for me. My conditioning is great. My endurance is great. And when life hands me a moment to test it, a long, unexpected hike, a big physical day, a flight of stairs with heavy bags, I'm fine and I'm actually better than fine. If you recall the story of that hike with my younger sister when I was 30, where I had to stop partway up while she kept going, I was winded and I was done. And I feared I was following my mother's path. I don't get winded like that anymore. And at 56, with the cardio routine that you could barely call minimal, my endurance is dramatically better than it was at 30 when I had none of this figured out. How? Well, because strength training, power work, and regular hiking, done consistently, has built a cardiovascular base that holds up. I didn't get there by living on a treadmill. I got here by getting strong, staying active, and doing just enough smart cardio to round it out. That's the proof of the hierarchy, living in my own body, strength first, cardio in support, and a level of conditioning I never had when cardio was the only tool that I knew. So here are the main takeaways from today. Let me make this practical for your week. First, keep strength at the top. Whatever you do with cardio, do not let it crowd out your strength training. Strength is the foundation, and done right, it's already working your heart. If your week has room for one thing, that thing should be the lifting. Second, if you're using cardio to control your weight, let's stop and rethink. Redirect that energy to nutrition and strength, where body composition is actually one. Keep cardio for endurance, heart, brain, and mood, the things it truly delivers. And third, make most of your cardio zone 2 and keep it easy. Use the talk test. If you can hold a conversation but not sing, you're there. A brisk walk counts. Resist every urge to push it harder because easy is exactly where the benefit lives. Bonus points for walking with a friend. And fourth, keep HIIT work small. A short HIIT session once a week or even every couple of weeks is plenty. It's a stressor, so respect that. Do not build your program around it and do not let it steal from your recovery or your strength. And fifth, pick cardio that you might actually enjoy. A hike, a walk with a friend, a bike ride with your kids. The best cardio is the kind that gives you endurance and joy at the same time, and that you'll actually keep doing. So here's the whole thing in a sentence. Cardio matters, but it's a supporting player, not the star. Strength comes first, always. Make your dedicated cardio mostly easy, mostly zone two. Sprinkle in a little of the hard stuff and choose the kind of movement that brings you endurance and joy, not punishment. If you spent years believing cardio was the price you had to pay for a healthy body, I hope this episode set you free from some of that. You get to put down the treadmill you hate. You get to pick up the weights that will actually change your life. And you get to take a walk with someone you love and call it exactly what it is: excellent for you. Next episode, we're shifting gears completely. We're moving from movement into nourishment. And we're starting somewhere that touches almost everyone: the constant, nagging thoughts about food, why they happen, what your body is actually trying to tell you, and how to find peace with eating. It's one of the most freeing conversations we'll have. Until then, move your body because you love it, not because you're punishing it. Thanks for spending this time with me today on the Vitality Choice. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you know someone who wants to stay strong, capable, and independent as they age, share this episode with them, because how we age matters, and the choices we make today shape the life we live tomorrow. I'll see you next week.